to fifth gear. It's time for Tiff to reveal everything you need to know about electronic stability control, the heroic little device that could save your life.
Car manufacturers call electronic stability control different things like DSC, VDC and DSTC. They all work in the same way and combat the thing that causes 40% of all fatal accidents, skidding. And 2012 marks an important moment in ESC's history. From this year, every new model released for sale in Europe will have to be fitted with electronic stability control. From 2014, no new car will be allowed to be sold without it.
Today, we're going to find out how it works. We're going to show you the cheapest used cars that have it fitted, and we're going to show you the shocking type of accident it can help prevent. ESC makes 25 calculations per second and automatically intervenes in a split second to prevent a skid. It means the average car has more computing power than the space shuttle. It's the culmination of a technological story that started more than 50 years ago. Seatbelts were the first ever safety device and arrived in the 50s, with Volvo demonstrating that being restrained in a sudden impact could increase your chances of surviving by 60%. Another classic in the Safety Hall of Fame is the airbag. By slowing the body's rate of deceleration, it helps reduce how much energy is transmitted to your internal organs and cuts fatalities by 25%. Then there's anti-lock brakes. The 1978 Mercedes S-Class was the first car to have ABS, and today more than 200 million ABS systems have been fitted, and they provide an essential part of an ESC system.
And now, to show you just why ESC deserves to be considered amongst the greats, I'm going to unleash the most dangerous and diabolical evasive driving on this wide cross-section of vehicles, all of which have ESC fitted as standard. It's me versus ESC. Basically, I'm going to replicate everyday emergency avoidance manoeuvres and try and crash. So perhaps I'm on a motorway, cruising along 70 miles an hour, being very dutiful, and suddenly something goes wrong in front of me, and I swerve to avoid it in a hurry. When I'm on a country road, I turn into a corner, and it's tighter than I thought. ESC works on the basis that prevention is better than cure. It supposedly stops 80% of all skidding accidents from even happening. The car's saving me from having a big accident. Because what the ESC does, it has all these monitors. First of all, it uses the ABS sensors to check each individual wheel speed. Then it's got a G meter to test the roll, the pitch fore and aft, and the roll from side to side. Then it looks at how much throttle I've got, how much steering angle I've got. It analyses all these things 25 times every second, and then sorts them out to get me out of trouble. So if I turn suddenly, first thing it does is instantly take away the throttle from me. Then it'll apply the brakes on the inside of the car to help pull the car around the corner. And we've virtually come to a standstill without me touching the brakes at all. I can't, however much I try, get this car to do anything other than squeal to a grinding halt. I'm full throttle and I'm down to 20 miles an hour.
These extreme swerve tests are the most recent addition to the ratings carried out by safety gurus Euro NCAP. They use a robot to produce a violent 270-degree steering input at 80 kilometers an hour, and they check that the ESC system keeps the car stable. The systems are so good these days that even top-heavy commercial vehicles can't be made to roll over.
These really are amazing systems. You almost think you're a brilliant driver. I mean, at 70 miles an hour, the car just won't go out of shape, however hard I try. In fact, the ESC systems are so good nowadays, you don't realise how good they are until you switch them off. We specially doctored the ESC in this Vauxhall Insignia so it was completely disengaged, something I wouldn't advise you to do.
Suddenly get into a motorway avoidance and all of a sudden you're part of the accident.
It's not hard to see why ESC has been made a standard requirement for all new cars.
But there's a problem. Whilst all new cars will have ESC fitted as standard by 2014, what about used cars? In the UK, we buy 3 million used cars every year. And for some of them, the consequences of not having ESC can be even more dramatic.
Join us later to find out what could happen if you drive a car that doesn't have an electronic safety net.
To fifth gear. Now, if you're thinking about buying a new car, you do not want to miss this bit.
Earlier in the programme, I demonstrated the benefits of electronic stability control, the safety system that automatically controls brakes and throttle to prevent the skids that cause 40% of all fatal accidents. Despite my best hooligan behaviour, none of the cars lost control or rolled over.
Whoa. Say, however hard I try.
Now I want to show you what can happen in the worst-case scenario in certain types of vehicle without ESC.
This is a 2001 Toyota Yaris, which, when it was new, was awarded 4 out of 5 stars in a Euro NCAP crash test and named the safest car in its class. But, like many other super minis of its age, it doesn't come fitted with ESC.
ESC was introduced in 1995 and only became a standard requirement in 2012. So there are plenty of vehicles out there without the sophisticated electronic nanny looking out for you. To find out exactly how much danger you could be in, we've asked professional stuntman Steve Trulier to carry out a series of emergency swerves at ever-increasing speeds. The test car has been modified by stunt engineers to protect Steve should the worst happen.
So, Steve, because we're not quite sure what's going to happen with this car, what have you actually done? You've all got your kit on. Are you expecting the worst, are you?
We've got to prepare for the worst, Tiff. So we've prepped the car, put some harnesses in, put a race seat in as well, which has been bolted down and put into place, stunt tank and a roll cage.
Stunt tank? What's
stunt tank?
Oh, the fuel tank?
It's a fuel tank that won't allow the fuel to spill out.
Okay.
So if we do
roll
it over, exactly, there's just a little bit in there, just enough to do the job. And if the car rolls over, the fuel should stay in there. So just to make it as safe as possible, there's an extinguisher in there.
And a great big rollover cage.
And a great big rollover cage, just in case, because we really don't know.
Seems quite a lot for a car that was named the safest car in 2001, doesn't it? I mean, it's only, what, 10 years ago? Yeah. This is the safest car, and you're having to do all this just in case.
The ambulance and fire safety crews were in place. Steve was ready to go. I retreated to a safe position. Were we about to see a massive accident? The experiment started with a swerve at 40 miles an hour. At 40, the car swerved sufficiently to avoid an obstacle and remained stable afterwards.
Lots of squealing noises, but nothing too dramatic.
So it was time to up the ante and the speed.
No big dramas at 40. What about at 50?
At 50, there's clearly more energy in the car, but it still doesn't look unwieldy.
Now let's see what happens if you're on a motorway doing 70 miles an hour.
Superb.
The increase in momentum spears the car off to the right, which could mean smashing through lines of traffic and into the crash barrier. In this case, the wheels dig into the wet grass and the car rolls. Steve was okay, and the car, amazingly, was drivable.
She'll be fine.
When it was sliding, I felt enough sideways, I didn't want to correct it. I thought I'm just going to leave that and see where it takes me.
And then it ran out of road.
And then ran out of road, yeah.
With the car patched up, we decided to send Steve down once again. This time to see what happens at over 70 miles an hour. As Steve worked hard to dodge an imaginary obstacle, the car skidded right, then flicked left, tipping onto two wheels. A split second later, it was on its roof, before going full circle and popping back onto all four wheels.
That's what happens if you don't have ESC.
We're not saying that every car without ESC will roll over in an emergency.
You're right, Steve?
Just like that, Tiff.
Or that the Yaris is less safe than any other vehicle without ESC.
Oh, they'll probably polish out. You'd like to have another go, maybe, Beverly. You're enjoying it so much. Well, thank you very much.
You're more than welcome,
demonstrated to everyone
Absolutely.
what it's like.
But when it comes to buying your next second-hand car, you'd be wise to choose something that does have this life-saving system fitted.